So where does that tone in your electric guitar actually come from? There seems to be a little bit of misunderstanding about this, so I want to clear up just a couple of things for you if you're trying to find that specific tone in your electric guitar. Now, I'm not talking about acoustic instruments. Acoustic instruments are a completely different animal. But as far as any sort of electric instrument, like, say this electric guitar, the wood and the neck, things like that, actually have a lot less to do with tone, and I would probably argue they have nothing to do with the tone of the guitar. A lot of people have a misunderstanding about this, and it probably comes from the fact that when we think about a pickup, we actually kind of think it works like a microphone. Now, inside of a microphone, you have a diaphragm, and whenever sound's traveling through the air, it vibrates that diaphragm, and that diaphragm sort of turns it into an electrical signal, and that goes out to your amplifier or your recording device. But this actually isn't the way a guitar pickup works. It is not a microphone. Instead, on an electric guitar, some sort of electric instrument, we have a pickup like this, and the bobbin itself, the black part of this pickup, is just some sort of non-magnetic material. So like carbon fiber, something like that. And other than that, what we have is these pole pieces, these silver poles that actually run through the bobbin. And these are magnetized. Now, sometimes the individual pole pieces themselves are magnetized, or in the case of a humbucker like this, where you have two of these pickups put together, a lot of times they'll have a magnet underneath the pole pieces that actually magnetize it. So some sort of ceramic magnet, alnico magnet, something like that. Other than that, besides the magnet, and I'm going to try to pull one of these uh, threads up so you can see it. Other than that, it's this really, really thin copper wire that's wrapped around a magnet. So basically what this does, all this does is just copper wire wrapped around a magnet, and it creates a magnetic field. So inside of your guitar, what happens is the strings actually just disturb this magnetic field. So you can think of it like this. If you were to take nylon strings and put them on your electric guitar, you're going to get absolutely no sound whatsoever, because you need something metallic, something that's going to interfere with this magnetic field. So as you play, the vibration of the string interferes with this magnetic field, and then that is turned into electrical signal that goes out to your amplifier, or to your recording device, whatever the case may be. So as far as the tone of where the tone of this guitar comes from, it's actually much less to do with the body or the neck or anything like that, and almost entirely to do with the pickup and the strings, with a few caveats, which I'll mention in a second. Because we're looking for the vibration of the string, to interfere with that magnetic field of the pickup, the body does make a difference in a way. Now, I know that sounded like I contradicted myself, but let me explain what I'm talking about. There's a reason why we make guitar bodies out of something hard, like some sort of dense wood, because anything that could dampen that vibration of the string can make a difference in the tone that you're going to get from the guitar. But as long as the material is something hard, you could think, although this would be really heavy and unrealistic, you can make a guitar out of concrete, or something, steel or something like that, that's going to still allow the string to vibrate well. As long as it doesn't dampen the vibration of the string, it's really not going to matter what the guitar itself is made out of. I've even seen them made out of, say, styrofoam, and then they'll put epoxy over it. Or I've even seen them made with things like colored pencils cut down. You can make a guitar body out of all sorts of things, and it's really not going to affect the tone at all. Another thing that will affect the tone as far as the construction goes is the nut. The nut's going to have to be made of a material that's really hard, which is why a lot of times they'll make it from a bone or something like that, really hard plastic, something that's Again, not going to dampen the vibration of the strings. So what are the things that actually will affect the tone inside the guitar? Well, obviously the pickup itself, how many wraps of copper wire are around that magnet, how thick or how thin that copper wire is, the type of magnets that are used. You think a lot of them use like Alnico 5, but they have Alnico 2, which is a slightly warmer, you might think bluesier sound in a guitar. The construction of the pickup really will make a difference, a huge difference, probably the biggest difference in the tone of the guitar. Also, the type of strings that you use, what material the strings are made out of, how thick or how thin the strings are, that will affect how it interacts with that magnetic field. Obviously, that electrical signal traveling through the electronics in the guitar will also affect the tone that you're going to get, because you can manipulate that electrical signal before it gets to the amplifier. And that's why a lot of people will change the electronics inside the guitar, upgrade their tone knob or their volume pot, put say 500K pots in instead of 250. There's a lot of things that you can do. They'll put sort of high-end bleed-offs in there that kind of roll off that high end of that electrical signal. So there's a lot of things you can do electronically to interact with that electrical signal before it gets to the amplifier. But as far as just the body itself, it's mainly just the pickup and then the string choice you use along with the electronics inside the guitar. Now there is something else that can affect how this electrical signal is received, and that is the position of the pickup in the guitar. So on something like this PV Patriot, you have a humbucker pickup, which is just two single coils put together, and you have it way down there next to the bridge pickup. And that's going to be like a really brighter tone. You might think like something like rock. And then on this Telecaster, what you're going to have is two single coil pickups. And you notice that one's down here next to the bridge, and that's going to give that really twangy sound, so that higher pitched sound. And then you've got one up here next to the neck, and this is going to give a warmer tone. You might think something more along the lines of blues, or that kind of stereotypical Strat sound that we get. And on a Stratocaster, you'll actually have three pickups, one down here, one in the middle, and then one up next to the neck. So the placement of that pickup along the fretboard, that's going to make a difference in the tone. Another thing that's going to make a big difference in the tone is how close that pickup is to the string, because we're catching that vibration interfering with that magnetic field. The closer you have that pickup to your strings, the hotter it's going to be, the more it's going to interact with that magnetic field, the more it's going to interfere with it, and that's going to change the tone drastically. So there are things you can do, even to an inexpensive guitar, to shape the tone and get that tone that you're looking for. Obviously, I would start with just simply adjusting the pickups. So if you want it, say, hotter, brighter, you might want to raise it up. Just experiment around raising and lowering the pickups on the guitar to get, a different tone out of it. Another thing, again, that's going to make a difference is where those pickups are along the body or along, the strings. Also, where you play is going to make a difference in the tone. What you play with, because those are all going to be things that affect how that string vibrates and interacts with the field. So if you play with your fingers as opposed to a pick, or if you play with a metal pick as opposed to, say, plastic or a really soft pick, something like that, all of those things can make a difference in how this string is going to vibrate. Other than that, it's mainly just the pickup, the strings, and then the electronics, how you're manipulating that electrical signal as it's heading out to your amplifier or your recording device. So I wouldn't worry as much about what the neck is made out of, what the body is made out of. The things you really got to focus on is the string type you're using, the pickup that's inside the guitar, how high or how low it is, and then the electronics that that signal is passing through. Now, if you disagree with me and you think that the wood, the neck, the body, all of these things have something to do with the tone, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear an explanation as to why this is the case. But as far as I'm concerned, it's really just the pickup, the string type, the height, and the electronics that it passes through. I really do hope this helps though, and as always, if you need something, reach out to me. I'll be glad to help you.